Hey guys, what's going on? Nick is here as always, and today I'm going to be trying something a little bit different. So, a lot of you have been submitting me questions and comments via YouTube, via Facebook, and what I want to try and do is I want to address those, but I don't want to just, answer the question and have it be left somewhere lost in the comments that will be just asked again. So, what I'm going to do is I picked out four questions and I'm just going to ramble a little bit on them. So, let's see how that turns out. First question. This is a question from Bill Phil. How much in quantity should I order for my test order? 50 units, 100 units? Should I do some giveaways, like 10 units? Jerry my test order and run PPC. Hey Bill, awesome question. So as far as I can see, there's two choices that you have. You can either go very minimal testing or kind of balls to the wall and commit to it. So what I mean by the two is one, like what you said, order 50 to 100 units just to see if they would sell, kind of try it minimalistically. A lot of times people will even go to AliExpress and order those 50 to 100 units, just to get it tested. They'll give away maybe five. They'll get friends and family to give another five reviews. Once they have their 5 to 10 reviews, that's when they'll turn on PPC and they'll test it out. And then the second method is you will order, 500 units for the test run, and that will give you a kind of a substantial bulk over a longer period of time. So I side with the latter, which is get 4 to 500. You can even go with 300, but I think 100 is too little, and here's why. You could get 100 units in. Let's say the product is fairly okay. The numbers are there, and you want to tackle the niche. AliExpress, let's say you get it flown over. It took you 2 to 3 weeks to get it in there. You hunted for samples, and let's say it starts selling. So out of 100 of those, you will get. Let's suppose you give away 10 to 15, right? 10 to 15 for reviews, half of those come through, and then some friends and family will top that off. There you go, you got your 10, and then let's say you turn on PPC. Let's say you start selling 5 per day and you sell out in a week or two, right? What if that was just a momentary, momentary success? Let's say something was happening that your specific product was in demand for that specific month, and then you're like, man, this is working. Let's order 1,000 units, and then you get 1,000 units in. It takes a little bit longer and a lot more money to get it to Amazon, and then you are sitting with it. I would go with get at least a couple of hundred. So like at the very least, like 250. Go with 300. I went with 1,200 my first order. That's a lot. That's like a big commitment right there. But if you go with 3 to 400 units, I think that's a really good commitment. Also, you're building a relationship with factory now. It's not going to cost you too much if the weight is there, of course, pound or less per unit. It shouldn't cost you too much with the air freight, and that way you can be a little bit more, flexible with the giveaways. Once it starts selling, you can already put a reorder while you're still in stock, so that way you don't run out of stock, you're not sitting empty-handed. So to answer your question, long story short, I would say go with a couple of hundred units for your original testing order. Give away about 10 to 20, depending on which services you use. Give it away to friends and family or just have them purchase it and then reimburse them, right? And then have them leave an honest review about the product and go from there. P Bass 16 asks, do you still need freight forwarder to get your stuff through customs, or is it only when it's shipped by sea? Let's talk about freight forwarders. A freight forwarder, when I say freight forwarder, what I mean is somebody who gets your stuff from point A to point B on a larger global scale. And with a bigger quantity. So let's say you have UPS, right? Deliver your package from your house to your grandma's house. It's pretty much the same idea, except you're going from country to country and you're going in containers or, larger shipments, less than box, whatever it is. So when you contact a freight forwarder and you get their quotes, whether it be Shapiro, which I've talked about before, or the current freight forwarder that I use now, which is Unitrans, what they basically do is they set you up with documentation. They find the best route for you, whether it's by air or by sea. Those are usually the two biggest, the only really choices that you have between, let's say, China and the West. And then they'll do the customs and putting the item through the customs, and then the trucking. So those are the three big parts: the air, sea. Then you have the customs, putting the product through customs using your bond that you signed for them. And then you have the trucking over to the warehouse once it clears customs. You can find all three of those legs of the trip, so to speak, using separate, separate companies. So you can find just a sea shipping company or an air, flying company. Then you find a person or a service that will just get your product through customs. It's usually a lot of paperwork, shouldn't be too expensive. I can update the average prices on the market so that you can compare and contrast in the future. And then you also can find a separate trucking company which will deliver your parcel from once it clears, whether it's airport or sea ship port, to the warehouse, right? So that's what I mean by freight forwarding. It's totally up to you. I choose personally to go with one company, and the reason why for that is because they have a team of people that are already, they've already done this before, and they kind of know the routes, and they have all these contacts, and more often than not, from what I've shopped around, they give you a much better deal because you're getting it as a bundle. They can now time it. It's kind of on their schedule, right? It makes it easier for them instead of having three different companies trying to sync with each other when's what's arriving and whatnot. So I would just say just go with a freight forwarder, even if you're doing 2/3 of the trip. So let's say sea and then customs, and then you're using a different trucking company. Still, I would look at freight forwarders. I think, in my opinion, they're kind of the best companies, especially the more established ones, to use. But it's totally up to you. Good luck. Abby asks, have you ever heard of Adam Ginsberg? He has a program for calculating profit and looking at sales rank on Amazon for something like 75 different websites, including places like Best Buy and Kmart, etc. Hey, Abby. Thank you for your question. Now, the short answer here is no, I have not taken any paid courses or anything of that sort. You guys know from my previous videos, I've done the Amazing Seller podcast, a lot of reading online, just asking questions, reaching out to people. The reason why I wanted to address this question specifically is that I noticed that the first kind of knee-jerk reaction of people that get started is, oh, I gotta pay for something to just learn this quick, and once I pay for it, it'll bring me enough value so that I don't really have to learn, like it'll just walk me through it. And that's just not the case with this business. You will always have to learn. You'll have to have your head down in your computer for 8 hours a day and just learn, just brute force grind it out. Basically, you're hunting down information, and the more info you get in, the better. But eventually, the learning just comes down to doing. Like, you can learn all you want, you can pay for all these programs. I think, personally, in my opinion, the $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, whatever the amount is, dollars that you'll spend on the course would be much better spent with first, learning the free content, whether it be a mastermind group or a meetup or a Facebook group that you can talk to, that you can serve, or, the Amazing Seller podcast, or maybe a couple of ebooks for like $10, $20 that you can purchase on the topic. I think they'll cover most of what the course will cover anyway. And then take that money that you were going to spend on the course and actually just invest it and do it, and buy 500-600 units, because that's probably how much it'll cost. You can get away with $2,000 to $3,000, get a good amount of units, so like between 300 and 600 depending on the per unit cost. Ship it over to Amazon and actually learn by doing, and that's what I recommend. So forget about the courses. And I know even in your question, Abby, you went into asking, he has this course that basically teaches you how to sell over 75, different marketplaces, including Amazon. But why do you need that? If you still haven't achieved your first product, even your second or your third, I think, you really need to focus in on what you're doing. That's the only way you'll be successful. I used to be like that as well. I used to be just all over the place. Like, oh, I'm going to start a business here, and I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to do school, and I'm going to, work out and pay attention to my diet, like everything. But it's just not how we work. As human beings, we need one thing and one thing only that we focus from day in, day out. Like, even doing Amazon and then doing the YouTube stuff, I'm kind of at risk of distracting myself, but I'm okay with it. Like, I've built up good enough habits to, keep up on both of them. So what I would recommend is focus only on Amazon, especially if it's your first product. Tap out all the free resources before you pay for anything. And if you were going to pay thousands of dollars for a course, I would recommend just take that money and use it as your play money. Be willing to lose it, but do your due diligence in researching the product and investing that into your first product. I think that's the best outcome for learning that you can possibly get with money spent. Feed Your Mind asks, what do you think of Shopify? Is it a good option to start off online? Awesome question. So I really wanted to leave this one for last because I have my own really strong opinion formed on this. So if you guys remember, one of my first videos, I talked about a YouTube video of Ryan Moran where he talked about the 3 stages of Amazon basically. And the first stage is the grind, where you just work on your one product. Second stage is you launch your second and third, repeating what you've learned in the grind, kind of same thing, you just replicate it. And then somewhere between second and third stage is where you go off of Amazon and you start your own Shopify store, and then you maybe branch out to other sales channels other than Amazon. So for example, eBay, Etsy, whatever it may be. Now, from what I'm understanding from your question, is it good to have a Shopify store with Amazon? Yes, but not at the beginning. The beauty about Amazon is that it's a self-containing environment where you have your pay-per-click, you have your own listing, you have your own fulfillment channel. So everything's kind of set there for you. So first things first, you got to make one successful product. What I constitute as successful might be very different from yours, but for me, it's 10 sales per day, $10 profit from each sale, and that will give you about $3,000 a month revenue. Probably half that is profit. And I know that's like Scott Volker's thing, like 10 by 10 by 1, I think he calls it. So I use the same thing. I will constitute that as successful. I agree with him. And then after you have 2 to 3 products that make a brand, that's when I would go off to do Shopify. And the reason for that is because if you just have one product, and let's say your first product is successful, and then you start Shopify, you're basically doing a pitch for just one product. You're not cross-selling, you're not upselling on anything, and you don't really have a niche formed, and you don't even know if the second or third product will pan out. Now, but also by that same token, you're kind of diluting your attention. Instead of pouring everything you've got into, okay, I got my first product. This is good. It's making me money. Let's just keep refilling that and maybe tweaking it a little bit. But now let's launch my second, my third, so that with my second, my third, if they're all doing $10 per every sale, 10 sales per day. So now we're talking about $9,000 per month. Pretty steady income, $4,500 profit per month, right? So that's what I would focus on first. Now you not only have 3 successful products, but they're probably going to be more likely than not tied in together. So now you're almost having like a brand that you can pitch to a customer. It's like, hey, you can buy these together as a package. So now you come off of Amazon to start a Shopify. And I know some people would argue that you can just do it right away. And for sure you can. But for me, attention is key. So your intent and your attention should always be on the one thing that you're trying to achieve, not between like half a day here, half a day there. And this is how I work. Maybe for you it might be different, but this is my advice to you. Basically, and then once you have your 3 products and you create your Shopify listing, now you can really play, with some cross-selling, because now you can pitch, you can pitch your brand, you can describe who you are, you can tell your story, and then you can present one product, and then you can present second, and then you can present third. You can buy these 2, get 10% off, buy all 3, get like 15 or 20% off. You can link them back to Amazon, or you can link them to different channels now and kind of getting traffic into your Shopify, because a Shopify page, usually a good one, is not just here's my 3 items, go ahead and buy them. No. You want to optimize your page. You want to create value on your page. You want to give people a reason to come to your page other than you're just selling products. That means blog articles or videos. That means extensive search engine optimization. You need to make it pretty. So if you're a graphics designer or a web designer, you're going to spend a decent amount of time to make that website flourish. And if you're not, then you're going to have to pay someone to do it for you. And that's going to take time and money once again. So what I would recommend is go back, watch that Ryan Moran video. I think it's called, if you type in 0 to $1 million in 12 months on Amazon, something like that. And it's Ryan Moran keynote. Watch it again. And I would recommend following that process, because right now on my second product, by the end of this year, I should be at my third, and that's actually, I'm finding a lot of logic behind what he does. Even the more senior guys in my mastermind group, they've done kind of similar things. Some of them launched it at 4th, 5th product, some of them launched it at 1st, 2nd, but they had some success on Amazon first, and then they came off of it. Now let's flip the situation. If you're not talking about Amazon, if you're just talking about e-commerce and starting a Shopify store, then by all means, for sure, but only if you have some sort of an advantage. Whether you have a brand or you're a reseller for an existing brand that you can just do search engine optimization and provide value in terms of information, how to use the product. But if you're just starting out, I would highly, highly, highly recommend only doing Amazon. Or let's say you don't like Amazon, only doing eBay reselling, right? Or only doing Etsy. If you have no brand, if you have nothing established, and you start a Shopify store, that's like you basically starting almost a competition with Amazon. You're starting from ground zero with nothing existing, and you have to build it up, and it's going to be such a much harder road to climb rather than build up on Amazon, already having those sales, having your brand known to people, and then starting a Shopify store. So you're still making sales and you're still growing your brand, even though it's not your marketplace, you're still growing your brand at another marketplace. Now you're starting your own kind of mini marketplace, and then you can build your brand on your marketplace while your product is making you money. So I hope that answered your question. Okay, so this concludes our first Q&A session. Let me know what you guys think. I'm really curious because this is a very much different format from what I usually do, and I'd love to hear your questions, more questions, so I can make more of these Q&As. Let me know your feedback about what you liked, what you didn't like about this episode. Subscribe, like, comment down below. You guys are awesome. Keep up the good work. I'll see you later.